I honestly don't know what to do. I am still so angry with you, but I can't deny you. I need you in my life. I'm still really angry. I don't know what to do with this anger. But it was the beginning of a new journey.
So, and it was such a real moment that I think a lot of people who are raised in a religious environment versus a relational environment with God and spirituality think that we can't vocalize anger to God.
That's right.
And here you were able to do that.
Yeah.
So ultimately, a few years later, you wind up at Pepperdine, and clearly you are someone who, you know, has extreme gratitude within your life. What created the shift from that very dark place and that moment of talking to God and telling him how angry you were over those the tragedy and the multiple tragedies really that you've had up to that point? What was the shift, and what was the shift into this life of gratitude and this it exudes through you? I mean, I wish people could meet you face to face because it's just there from top to bottom. So what do you attribute that shift to?
The shift occurred because in that night, in that moment when I cried out to God, my relationship with him, as you mentioned, changed from a transactional relationship to a relational relationship. I no longer saw God as a giver or a rewarder. That if I do right, if I do well, I get a reward. And if I do wrong, I'm punished. It became a much more personal relationship. I was no longer in a relationship with God to get something out of it. I was in a relationship with him for the sake of being loved. And in so doing, I started seeing things differently. I didn't have to perform anymore. I can rest in him. And I can find joy in living and not in performing. And that was such a transformative experience. And so, and by doing that, I was more free to develop a relationship with him and not just developing myself and my ability to perform. And so gratitude is a gift. It is a true gift, but it's a choice. I have to choose. I have to choose daily, each moment, to be grateful, to find joy in those moments, or even without joy, to be able to be patient. One of the wonderful gifts I think God gives us is the gift of hindsight.
Isn't that the truth?
Right? I'm thankful I don't have the gift of foresight. Because if I knew, I wonder what I would have done at 11 years old if I knew what was about to happen. I wonder what Mary would have said had she known how much pain she was going to go through watching her son die on the cross. Would she have said yes?
Right.
So I'm thankful we don't have the gift of foresight, but I'm so grateful for the gift of hindsight, because as I look back, I am able to see God's hand at work so clearly. And
isn't it astonishing sometimes, that hindsight, that in the moment we know we could really never have quite imagined that future. And I think that's what creates the moments of astonishment when we've got hindsight.
Exactly. And with hindsight, we build up a reservoir of memories that can carry us. But that doesn't mean that we don't still go through difficult times.
Of course.
It-
All right.
it- but the gift of hindsight allows me to be present even in the pain, especially present in moments of joy, moments of pain, and even in moments of the mundane. Because we know that God is present and He is working. And so I'm thankful for that.
Well, I love, obviously, hindsight is a big piece of what you're grateful for. Can you share with us a couple of other things that are like, make maybe your top 10 of things you're most thankful for, that you have the most gratitude for?
Well,
Your hit list?
I mean, some very obvious things. One is my family. God has put me into a family that blessed me with an incredible wife who loves me despite all my imperfections, with children who embrace their heritage and their faith. I'm grateful for the gift of freedom. Corinne and I have often said that the most important job, one of the most important jobs for us as parents, is to help our children make choices that will increase their freedom rather than inhibit them. And we carry that task to the way we live. The choice that we make, are we enhancing, increasing freedom for the world, or are we inhibiting them? But one of the things I've learned recently, well, maybe not so recent, is that I'm grateful for the gift of imperfections.
Tell me about that. Because so many of us struggle for perfection.
Yes.
And for all of us perfectionists out there in the world, it's
a burden. It is a burden. It
Yes.
really is. And there's something about me that I learned this way early, probably in 7th or 8th grade, that I value wholeness. And what I mean by that is, for example, if I have a set of 12 cups and one gets a chip in it, I'm like, ugh. Let's just get another set.
A whole set, like,
Right.
because it's not perfect anymore.
Right. And
So I guess if I went into your kitchen, I would not find all those random mugs from different places. There's
yes,
a nice.
you would.
Oh,
Because
okay.
that's what I was.
I see. Because you overcame it for sure.
I still value wholeness. But one of the things that I learned is that perfection comes with a price. Perfection comes with a huge price.
Yeah.
And I still like to strive, but I've learned that perfection has a very heavy price. Well, I'll give you a story. The 16 years that I was separate from my family, one of the ways that I kept my sanity and kept going was I had a vivid imagination. I would imagine all sorts of things, but I would always imagine a reunion. I would imagine what our first Christmas would be like. I imagine what our first Thanksgiving would be like. Thanksgiving is my most favorite holiday. And so...
What a shock.
Right?
And we're talking about gratitude.
So the first Thanksgiving, when my family was all together, Corinne and I worked like dogs to create this perfect feast. We arranged flowers, we set the table, we had the perfect turkey, we had all the dishes, everything was set.
And knowing Corinne and her cooking skills.
That's right, her incredible baking.
She can cook you under the table, ma'am.
And so we worked together on this beautiful feast. And I pictured us sitting around the table holding hands. So it's this Norman Rockwell moment, right? 5 minutes before we were to sit down, my sister comes over and says, well, one of my brothers somehow got something under his, a burr in his saddle, so to speak, and he was angry at something, and he says, I'm not coming over.
Oh, geez. Wait.
I was,
Wait.
yeah, exactly. Wait, my perfect Thanksgiving is now ruined. And so I can feel my blood just boiling. And so we sat around the table, we held hands, and we bowed our heads, and I could not pray. I tried to speak, not a word came out because I was so
So you're
filled
so
with anger.
mad.
I was so angry.
Well, you had a chip
literally-
in your cup.
Exactly.
This
And
is what.
16 years I dreamed of this.
Yeah. Wow.
And I remember not being able to utter a word. And I remember in my head saying, God, give me the words. But even in so saying, I was still feeling anger. And I remember hearing words come back to me. 3 words came in my head. Shatter the image. Shatter the image. And I realized what God was saying to me. I had built up this image of perfection to the point where it became my idol.
Wow. Wow.
And nothing could live up to that. And once I was able to shatter that perfection, I was able to pray. Yeah, I was still upset,
Sure.
but it freed me. And I think that has become my reminder that yes, I can work hard. I mean, in fact, my job is about ensuring a perfect academic experience for the students, that they need to have the right classes in the right order so they can graduate. But I need to allow room for there to be, chips in the cup, there to be detours on the road. And so that because my idea of perfection is still imperfect, I need to allow room for imperfections to take place.
Well, and here's what's so interesting, because as you share your stories and your experience, threaded throughout is this idea of growing up initially feeling like a relationship with your creator is I do good, I get rewarded. I do bad, I get punished. A transactional. But you learn through the experience to shatter that piece of it,
right.
because you were invited into relationship, and it became your gratitude started to flow as you began to experience and notice the love around you, the unconditional love
Yes.
around you. It was
Yes.
no longer transactional. And then here you are with your family, right? And it almost became transactional with the perfectionism. I make it all this way, everybody behaves
Yes.
a certain way, we have it look this way, it goes
Right.
this way. But in the chipped cup, you were able to finally notice the relational piece around you, all the love that was around you in your family. Isn't that interesting how the gratitude doesn't seem to, it's hard to pick up on when we're in that transactional mode
Exactly.
or the perfection
and I think
mode?
that's perfection leaves very little room for gratitude, because we're always striving, we're always working, and we're always trying to reach that perfect moment. Gratitude allows us to find meaning in each moment, in each transaction, so to speak, and find meaning in the relationships, and we rejoice in the growth. And sometimes we also find ways to give thanks for the pain. Maybe not right in the moment, but as we travel further, we can look back and say, this led me to this. And
Do
so,
you think it's kind of like exercising, growing your ability to grow your gratitude? Is it like exercising and building a muscle as you go?
it is, and it's a choice. It's an intentionality that we choose to find things for which we're grateful. And it's not easy.
Well, so tell me, share with me, what do you think we all know those people who just seem to get up on the wrong side of the bed every day, right? And they just don't have much joy in their journey. What would you say to someone like that who says, look, hon, that's easy for you, but I didn't have a lot of the big life contrasts and experiences that you have. I just have a ho-hum life here. What is there to be grateful for? How would you advise them to start?
I would say start with realizing the miracle of being able to just take a breath. When I sat next to my father as he was taking his last breath, it was such an incredibly precious moment. And to think about how God designed our bodies to need air, and that even in his last few moments, he was still gasping for that air. And so it's miraculous. Just the fact that you can open your eyes and see, or to really get up. I mean, I'm not sure if you've ever been hurt before, or when you've stubbed your toe or broke your leg. Boy, in those moments, in those times, we long for the times when our feet didn't hurt, our toe didn't hurt,
right,
or our leg was whole.
Or my head doesn't hurt from head planting in the bottom of the ocean
Right.
after I fall off the board.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's one way. And I would say that it's not easy, but it is a choice that we make every day. We have to be intentional. We have to be thoughtful. Like, for example, when we walk, we don't think about walking. We've learned to walk. Our hand swing with the opposite leg, right? Well, I think sometimes we need to slow down and take deep breaths and actually be present in those moments. That's one way to do it. Another thing is to look around. Just look around. It's really easy these days to think about all the horrible things that are happening around our world. And I think we have to be aware of those things. We have to know that these things do exist. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we also need to know that we have been given certain things and certain talents, certain gifts. And what are we doing to make a positive impact? Jesus said he came to give us life, to make life more abundant. Mm-hmm. Well, as his followers, what are we doing to live out that mission?
Well, and in the last few weeks here, back in, I think it's been 12 weeks now or so, back in November, you and Corrine and the Pepperdine community have been put to the task with that in the recent events with the wildfire that was so extreme here in Malibu, and I think it was about 697 structures just within Malibu were completely lost. You were up to, I think, over $1 billion of damage here, just lives shattered with devastation and their homes lost. And then at the tail end of that Woolsey fire came that horrible mass shooting at the Borderline Grill.
Corrine and I had just arrived from this incredible trip into Germany. And I remember, even on the trip, we said, one of the greatest gifts of this trip was the gift of unexpected, that God was moving in such unexpected ways. And we get back on a Wednesday night, and I was exhausted. I went to bed about 11:30. About 2 a.m, I get a phone call. And it was about the shooting at Borderline. My heart just sank. And then I'm told one of our students is missing. And within the next hour, I got texts from Elena's mother saying, "Hung, they can't find Elena."
Oh. Now, Elena Housley's, her parents were graduates of Pepperdine,
Yes,
right?
there are dear friends of ours. I was in student life when they were students here, and we loved them dearly as students. And when they got married, we were so thrilled, and we've remained close with Eric and Hannah. And we were so thrilled when Elena chose to come to Pepperdine. And
this was her freshman year, correct?
First
She had
year.
Just started.
And so when I heard that, my knees got weak and I practically fell to the ground. I can't, in that moment, I can't even, I remember thinking, I can't even imagine what Hannah and Eric must be feeling, because I know what I was feeling. And by the next morning, when we found out about Elena's death, we were all utterly devastated. And I remember standing outside of Smothers Theater, and I am in tears. I am weeping, and I get a call that says, Hannah and Eric are in the chapel, and they would like to see you.
Oh, gosh.
That was hard. I ran down to the chapel, and I saw Eric, and we just wept together. And I went into the chapel, and there was Hannah, and I just held her and wept together, and she said, Hung, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to pray.
Very real moment.
Yeah, and I just held her. And I just held her. And in that moment, I prayed, God, make your presence known. Because I knew he was there weeping with us. I knew he was there hurting with us. And in those painful moments, I knew God was present.
And so here you are in the midst of this horrible death, one of your beloved family friends and a beloved student here at the university losing her life in this senseless act of this shooting, and then the fires and the members of the community. And here is the campus that survives yet another. There have been quite a few, but this was probably one of the worst.
Yeah.
But the campus remains standing. And as we watch the news reports, the community, this became a center for so many that were hurting in the community. So as you, and I'm so proud of you and Pepperdine and the Pepperdine leadership for all that you did to really wrap your arms around those who were hurting here. But what do you say to people who say, how can a good God allow these things? How can he take a precious young gal's life and let that happen to her? Not that God took her.
Okay.
How can he allow these horrible things to happen and homes burned, people's lives literally burned to the ground? How can you expect me to find gratitude in those moments? What did you say to folks? I presume you had a few conversations like that in these moments.
In those moments, there's great pain. And it takes me back to that night when I found out my sister had died. And so in those moments, there's not a lot you can say. In those moments, you sit and you weep, and you hug, and you cry. And that's the reality of pain. There's nothing you can say in those moments. At the same time, I can also look back and see that God was and is present. He's present in our joy. He's present in our pain. He was there. Elena didn't die alone. The fires swept through here. There was great fear, but there was also incredible sense of community where we came together and we found each other, and God brought us together. God is in the healing. God is in our choosing to serve one another. In the midst of all this turmoil, it was right before Thanksgiving, and several of us got together. One of our alumni called and said, we want to do something. And God opened doors for us to have a community-wide Thanksgiving feast. And it was one of the most incredible experiences we've ever had. We had friends and neighbors who had lost homes, and they came. And we didn't try to explain it. What we did do was love on them.
You threw the doors wide open.
Yes, yes. And so, so I believe in those painful moments, the best we can do is love. Indeed, God is love. And so if we, when others are in pain, it's not a time to teach, it's a time to love. And we trust that the power of the Holy Spirit, God's love is real, and that when we love, we live out His being, and we allow His Spirit to do what we can't do.
And that's the biggest piece.
That is the biggest piece.
Well, Hung, as we close this interview, I'm just so thankful, and my heart is full of gratitude for you opening your doors here at Pepperdine, letting us come in, and for you sharing these very personal life experiences. I'm wondering, for the person who may still not be quite sold on the idea of embracing a life and starting out on a journey of gratitude, you have a couple of closing thoughts and make the case for how living with gratitude is a life-changing experience?
Gratitude allows us to take the next step. Gratitude allows us to see light in the darkness. One of the most memorable experiences I've had in my life was going to Yosemite with our sons. And I remember the first time I went there with Zach, our oldest, we went through these caves called the Spider Caves. And it was so dark in there that you open your eyes and you can't tell your eyes are open. You put your hand in front of your face and you can't see your hand.
That's dark.
It's utter darkness. And we crawl through, and there are certain areas that's super dangerous, but we crawl through together. And then we get into this area, this cave-like area, and all of a sudden there's this incredible peace that comes over. And the reason for that peace was because we were able to see slight shadows of each other. And so we sat around in a circle, and we held onto each other. And I remember saying to them, I said, look up. There's a pinhole at the top of this cave. And that tiny little pinhole is letting in some light. And I said, you see what happened here? You see how utter darkness scared us? And that one little bit of light cast an immeasurable peace of all of us.
Wow. Anxiety buster.
And you see, light, darkness cannot overcome light. And so that would be my encouragement, is that the reality of our world is that there is such darkness. But as powerful, as painful, as evil as darkness is, it cannot overcome light. Gratitude allows us to find light, to see light, and to be light.
That's beautiful. That's our tool. That's our way. Oh, that's fantastic.
So grateful for our time together.
Thank you, Hung.
So proud
Thank
of you and
so
all you're doing.
much. Thank you for being.